Hello and welcome back to Being a Woman in the Social Dance Scene series. This video is for the leaders. I do lead, let me put that out there. I can lead, I do lead, I have led. We are very responsible for how the dance goes. Don't get me wrong, the follower has a lot of autonomy and a massive impact on how the dance goes. But we are basically that first point of deciding the moves, deciding what's happening. So we have a lot of responsibility. Whilst I do lead, I'm going to be talking about, as a follower, my experience of leaders. The first thing that I absolutely love when leaders do is when they assess the situation. I hate it when you go into a dance and they've never danced with you before. They don't know, maybe they know oh, okay, I've seen her dance like this with someone, but they've never danced with you before. I should say you've never danced with them before. Let me talk to you. So let's say you go up to someone, you've seen them dance a certain way with someone and you want to dance with them. You ask them to dance and immediately you start going into all these crazy moves. I personally don't like that. If we have not danced before, don't go crazy. I need to understand your lead. I need to understand how you lead. I need to understand your body, adjust my following to your style. And you have to do the same for me. You've got to adjust your lead, whether you need to be rougher or softer. You need to adjust height of various things, positioning, hands. So to go full in, straight in, bang, is too much. One of the best dances that I remember having was in London, and I'd asked one of the teachers to dance. Perhaps they didn't know that I taught or that I was a proficient dancer. Perhaps they did. But he started off the start of the dance with just a very basic step. He then did an underarm turn. As the dance progressed, the moves got harder and harder and harder and harder, and I was getting really challenging moves afterwards. And then later on he asked me for a second dance, and in that dance it was challenging moves. Now, the reason why that dance stood out to me is because he didn't come in with an assumption of how I dance or what our connection was like or anything like that. He started off very simple and then he increased the difficulty. And then later when he realized, we gel well together, just because you're a good dancer doesn't mean you gel well together. You gel well together, we can dance well together, we can make things a bit harder, and then on the next dance you can kind of go for it a bit more. And I respected him so much for that, for not just making assumptions or twisting and pulling and doing all these things. I respected that so much. As a leader, try and assess the situation. Don't just go in hard and go in with all your flashy moves. Assess the situation, get used to each other, get used to the music, get used to the beat, get used to the other person's way of moving, and use that as a basis to then build on later. I found this especially annoying. I was teaching one time in London, and I don't normally teach in London, so when I go there, people don't know who I am, and they just sort of dance with me like normal. And this one time I was teaching at this event, and immediately after the event, the vibe was just completely different. And suddenly I was dancing with people, and they were just throwing everything they knew at me. And it was move after move after move, dip, lift, dangerous lifts, dangerous dips. And I don't know if it was because they thought, oh, she's a pro, she can handle it. Yes, I can handle it, but doesn't mean I'm having a good time. So it was very intense. And it was 4 hours of it. And I was just this is too much. So I prefer going in places not telling anyone I can dance and then sort of building rapport and building a connection with people. But just bear in mind, leaders, you don't have to throw every single thing you've got in the first 10 seconds of a dance. A lot of followers actually prefer a sort of a slow burn and a build up to then everything, and then their back hurts. The second thing I talk about is indications that the follower gives you. Firstly, if they just tell you, I don't like dancing sensual bachata, or I don't want to dance so close, or I don't want to do dips, or my neck hurts, let's not do any head rolls. Respect that. This happens too many times where someone says something and the leader thinks they know better and doesn't respect what they've just been told. For example, if a follower comes in and it's oh, I don't do sensual bachata, that doesn't mean, oh, it's your turn to teach them how to do sensual bachata. Social is not for teaching. That means they don't want to do sensual bachata. Take everything you hear at face value. If they say my neck hurts, I don't want to do head rolls, don't be oh, I know a head roll that doesn't hurt the neck that much. No, just don't do it. There's so many other moves that you can do, and it's okay to repeat the other moves that you've got, but if a person asks something of you, respect that. Fair play if you didn't understand what they meant, either ask for clarification, or if you do it and they tell you, oh, this is what I don't want you to do, that's your opportunity again to respect that. I do talk about this in the other video. I'll link it at the end of this video. On that, let's talk about mansplaining. And this only ever happens with men. Never had it with any female leaders. If a follower does not follow something that you have led, a couple of things might have happened. The follower was not paying attention. That's okay, mistakes happen. The follower did not understand your lead. Also okay, mistakes happen. Perhaps if you assess the situation, you understood their level, then you might not have gone so hard on the lead or done so difficult moves. 3, the leader's made a mistake, and that's okay. But to be honest, like when you're in a dance and a mistake happens, it could be either of you. What you don't have time to do is to figure out whose fault it was. And why would you want to do that anyway? Surely just say, oops, sorry, and a continuation is enough. There's nothing worse. You do a dance. Let's say I made a mistake. Let's say it wasn't me. It's my fault. I made a mistake. And then you take it upon yourself to teach me how to do that move. Just listen to that for a second. I'm there to have a good time. I am not perfect. I will make mistakes. I'm allowed to make mistakes, and I'm allowed to make many, many, many mistakes. That does not mean it's now your responsibility to show me the way or tell me what I'm doing wrong. It's your responsibility to have a good time for yourself and for me, and vice versa. So let's have some grace with other people's mistakes. But most of all, leaders do not set out to show someone the way, to explain something. I have a brilliant story about this. I was at a boat party in London. I swear all these things always happen in London. I think it's just the sheer amount of people, to be honest. I was in a boat party in London and I was dancing with someone who was very clearly a beginner. They couldn't keep time, which is fine. And followers, if you are watching this, if someone is off time, I generally just go with my leader's time. I don't try and pull them on time or reset the dance. I just kind of go with their time. And if they realize, great, they'll put me back on time. And if they don't, then, we still have a good time. He was dancing off time. I left it. Fine. I danced with him off time. It's okay. The moves are very basic. Side to side, underarm turn, forward and back. Again, fine. I have no issue with this because I was enjoying the music. I was enjoying connecting with this person. Absolutely fine. They then tried to do a comb, but the comb was led like a turn. So naturally, I turned. He stopped the dance. I will point out he probably didn't know I was a teacher, but that doesn't excuse it because he shouldn't be doing this. He stopped the dance and then spent time to say, no, it's supposed to be like this. Your hand is supposed to go over your head. To which I responded, oh, you're doing a comb. Yeah, I know. And he was like, okay. And then he tried it again, but he led a turn. He did not lead a comb. So I turned. He stopped the dance again and basically told me off and tried to teach me. This is in the middle of the dance floor, which is very small, so people can see. So if it was somebody else, that person is potentially making the follower feel embarrassed because everybody's watching. The follower is getting told off on the dance floor to the point where this guy is stopping the dance to explain something. Even if he was correct, let's say he did everything perfectly, let's say he was a teacher and he was good. Like, who are you to stop a social dance to tell someone when they have not asked for your opinion? They have not asked, oh, how do I do this move? Oh, can you go through this? That was not said, but you decide to stop the dance to show them and teach them something. Like, who are you? Who are you to do that? Anyway, I finished the dance with this guy, much to my pleasure. I have to admit there was a teacher who was watching this happen and he immediately came over and asked me to dance. And the first thing he did was like the most complicated waves and body isolation and stuff. And this other guy was just looking and he was just like, and I really hope he was mortified. I hope he was mortified because the way I was treated was just not okay. And it's not that I've got a big ego because I could have turned around and argued with him and be like, I'm a teacher, how dare you talk to me like this? I know what, you're doing it wrong. I could have done that. I didn't because I genuinely just cannot be asked. So I just kind of left it. But I am grateful for that teacher for coming over and making a point. Anyway, the point being, mansplaining, not necessary. Okay, let's move on to dangerous moves. Now, I've already said you need to assess the situation. Part of assessing the situation is kind of seeing how hard you can go in terms of difficulty, the level of that person and the flexibility of that person. And in no circumstances should you be doing a dip which throws the follower completely off balance that they can't support their own weight. When that happens, I tend to end a dance or I will say, can you not do that please? Not gonna put all my faith into you, especially when I already have a bad back and occasionally a bad neck. I don't want to wake up the next day feeling more sore than I need to. I know that about myself. And I will always do lifts and dips where I can somewhat support myself and hold the right muscles to engage myself. If you are a leader and you dip a follower and you feel their weight and you feel like you are supporting weight, that's an indication to you that this person does not know how to dip safely. and therefore do not do dips with them. It might be the situation that just that one off, they were off balance, so maybe you could try another one and see how that goes. But if you've done a few and this isn't working, stop with the dips. The same goes for lifts. Under no circumstances should you be lifting somebody where both their feet are off the ground and you've not danced with them before. You do not know how much they weigh. You do not know if they like being lifted. You do not know the correct hand positioning. Like, a lot of lifts has got more to do with technique than weight. So even if someone looks light, but they don't have the right technique, like, you're not gonna be able to lift them. There's been situations, and I don't know how I managed to do this, but there've been situations where these like big muscly guys, they're muscly guys, tall, big, muscle, and they'll try and lift me, and it's like I'm the heaviest person. I'm like 5'1", and I'm quite light, I think. I've got muscle, I do have a lot of muscle, so maybe that's what it is. But they'll try and lift me, and it's like, they like physically cannot lift me. And that goes to show technique is so important. Like, if I'm not going down with you and preparing to lift, I cannot be lifted. So unless you have practiced lifts with a particular person, or you've danced with them before, or you're like, I want to try a lift and they consent, then great, go ahead. But if you've not done those things and you are trying to like do all sorts of stuff with a follower, like, it can make someone feel very uncomfortable and very out of control. And it can potentially be quite dangerous if you don't have the proper technique, if they don't have the proper technique. Just don't do it. Do not do it. Just to recap before you run away, we've got looking out for indications, respecting people's wishes, assessing the level of dance before you go crazy, not mansplaining on the dance floor trying to teach anybody, not doing dangerous lifts in general, and not lifting people if you haven't danced with them before, or you don't know them, or you haven't tried lifts with them before. And when it comes to dips, if the dips don't feel technically done, as in like they're depending on you too much to support their body weight, they probably don't have correct technique, so avoid doing dips. I've covered a couple of things. There's obviously a lot more to leading, and don't see this as a thing of like, leaders, this is don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. There's so much you can do. Just remember that there is so much you can do. Just because you've been asked not to do one or two things, it doesn't mean that's it, your repertoire's over. And if that is the case, then maybe perhaps more classes are in order, but there is so much you can do. And there's so much you can do to bring joy and fun. Like, your job, everyone's job, followers, leaders' job, is to come in with a good, friendly, connected attitude, wanting to dance, connect with the music, have a good time, enjoy each other's company, not to teach, not to show off, not to, have an ego battle. Like, that needs to stay out of the dance. And trust me, you'll have a much, much better dance. Okay, that's it for this one. I think there's maybe one or two more in this series. If you've got any experiences you want to share, pop them down. If you resonated with any of the experiences or have had something similar happen, or you're a leader and you completely disagree with everything I've just said, let's argue in the comments. I'll see you there.